Today, I'm coming in front of everyone teaching this webinar on behalf of the New Mexico Short-Term Rental Association. I'm a board member and wanted to start the education division of this board, an organization to help bring more value and more awareness on how to become great hosts. So today we're going to start off, and I wanted to kind of go through a few things about my background and why I've been able to acquire these skill sets to really help you guys take your guys' listings to the next level. Okay. So if you guys have any questions during this presentation, please wait to the end. I have a whole Q&A session for everybody, and we can get through all the questions that you guys will have at the end. So make sure you write them down. Today, the agenda is basically going to go over the importance of pictures for your listing, also as well as the 4 essential types of Airbnb photos. Those 4 essential types of photos are going to be the layout and design photos, the function and functionality photos, the vibe and experience photos, as well as the detail and accent shots. Staging and designing is going to be a big thing for the big day of your photo shoot. I'm going to teach you how to take control of that photo shoot and make sure that you're able to work hand in hand with your photographer to make sure you get the best photos possible to show off your listing. How to hire and coach the photographer is going to be super important. I've worked with several different photographers in different cities, so I have to build a system in place that I can replicate that same photo and staging and photo shoot in different cities. And then also we're going to teach you how to choose that money maker, that hero photo, that photo that's going to make everyone stop scrolling and check out your listing and see how beautiful it is. Past 10 years has been pretty awesome for me in the real estate world. In 2015, I opened up a wholesaling company out in Denver. And in 2017, I opened up my first Airbnb. I was able to scale to 7 properties by 2019, and I was doing over $350,000 in revenue off of 7 properties out here in Denver, Colorado. And then in 2021, I opened up my first Airbnb in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then this past year, I opened up 2 more duplex. That is a really large property in Albuquerque as well. And to kind of express why photos are so important, I want you guys to think about what your biggest asset is in your Airbnb. You know, people have hot tubs, people have, you know, amazing kitchens, amazing backyards, playrooms, backyards that have, you know, putt-putt and all types of great things. And each one of those are an asset to your Airbnb business. And what I like to, we all know that if you add a hot tub, you know, it's going to create this ROI. You know, how fast can you get back that money that you spent on that hot tub? And I think one of the biggest overlooked assets inside of an Airbnb business is going to be your photos. You can have great hospitality. You can deliver great amenities. You can do all these great details of having the place sparkling clean and using certain products for that cleaning and just have one of the best products ever. But if your pictures are not good, no one's going to book and no one even cares about your experience or the hospitality that you bring. So the biggest ROI is going to be those $200 to $400 photos that you pay for. And if you make sure that those photos are going to be the best ones, you can use those photos for the eternity of your property. You know, especially if you have systems in place where something breaks and you use the same item over and over, these pictures will last you a lifetime, and they are worth 1,000 bookings. And so I want to really, really stress on how important these photos are. Photos are the first thing that your guest is going to see. So you want to make sure that besides that title, that first photo is going to be very eye-catching and also express what kind of host you are and what kind of property, because that photo is going to attract the right guest. And if you put the wrong photo, you're going to attract the wrong guest. So you got to figure out who that person is that you're looking to attract. And so as from this first photo, you guys can see this is a property of mine in Grand Junction, Colorado. And this photo says fun. This photo says entertainment, and it says there's an experience. This is actually a garage I've turned into a game room out there. Cool thing too is I actually bought a property, and that air hockey table was inside of there, and I was able to paint it and throw it into one of my Airbnbs. So I'm always adding different things to my properties to try to make them stand out from other ones in the area. A well-curated photo gallery will highlight the best features you have in your property. So one of the biggest things I have is, and I'll repeat this over and over, probably almost every slide in this webinar, is if it's not in a photo, it doesn't exist, okay? And so if you have everything that your property offers inside of photos, you'll get less questions. And so we want to make sure that we're minimalizing questions, and people are going to be able to book through just looking at your photos. They're not always going to be reading, how cozy your place is and how amazing it is. We as a society have just really been taught to make decisions based off of photos. So you have to have that mindset shift, okay? That mindset shift is going to help change you from thinking, oh, I just need to show off my property, to really being detail oriented with what's in those photos. We want to make sure that we really change our mindset in how important that photo shoot is because of the ROI, right? And if we are not making sure that that photo shoot is everything that we need it to be, and we're not being picky about it, we're going to have less bookings, and we're not going to really be doing the guests justice by expressing our property in the best manner. So everybody always asks, well, Vince, why do I need to learn all this about photos? I have a photographer, that's their job, they can handle that part. And yes, I'm not here to teach you guys how to be a photographer at all. What I'm teaching you is how to take control of your business and one of the biggest assets in your business, and help translate to that photographer what you're looking for to attract the right guests for your property, right? Because if you let the photographer decide the photos, then they're going to decide on who your guest is, right? And if you don't want that fun, that fun guest that's going to come in with a lot of people and really be drinking or just kind of celebrating a situation of some sort, then you want to make sure your photos don't express that, okay? And most photographers are in real estate know how to do a great job at what I call real estate photography, and that's going to showcase that property, right? And what we're trying to do is showcase an experience. And this is a photo. These are photos right here on the slides of my most recent property I opened up last summer in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's a duplex, and these are actually the photos from the listing before I purchased the property. And these are great photos. They will show you, real estate photos will show you, pictures that you. Oh, sorry about that. Real estate photos will show you the property in a manner for you to want to live there or imagine yourself living there, okay? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people that they can experience there. So these are the exact same room, new decoration, and these are the Airbnb photos to make people imagine creating a unique experience there. The lighting it will change the whole mood of what's going on in there. And these are the same room, but it gives a different emotion. Okay, I'm gonna go back and forth real quick of, this lighting in this room compared to these photos here and the different emotion that it will strike. If they don't see it in the picture, or if it's not listed in the title, it doesn't exist. And I'm gonna repeat that over and over here. And so this is a photo of a property I have in Arvada, Colorado. This is the kitchen. And as you can see, everything is out. Every utensil and thing that you could think of. Does it have a blender? Does it have a coffee pot? Does it have a toaster? Those things are all displayed. And that's going to help minimize those questions that you're going to get, especially when you have a really nice kitchen that we might offer, like a rice maker or a crock pot or something like that. So you want to make sure that if you're going to spend the money on those items, that you're displaying them in the kitchen. The importance of visual storytelling. You want to make sure that your photo gallery tells a story. You want to have your best photos in the front, but you also want to make sure that guests feel like they're entering the property and having a great experience of feeling like they know what that property feels like and where everything's at. So in this slide right here, I'm telling a story. This is the duplex in Albuquerque. This is the garage I turned into a movie theater room, and it has a secret entrance to another room that's like a lounge. And so the way these photos show is that, first you can see the movie theater room, and then you see a closet door that's shut. In the next photo, you see the closet door open with some red lighting coming out of it. And the final photo is the lounge, so that people can see that you go into this area, and this is where the movie theater room is. And now that closet there, oh my God, you open it up and it's like a speakeasy with another extra room. Okay. So if you have a complicated layout, if you want to show an experience of some sort, we want to make sure we're doing visual storytelling. Ensure that every detail is captured. Okay. Detail shots are important because they're going to show that you as a host are detail oriented. And so right here, this is a detail shot for my Grand Junction property. My Grand Junction property is a wine theme. It's close to vineyards. And so I have a cheese board and wine toppers. And, this doesn't answer a lot of questions, but it is a detailed shot that's super important to show, the quality of things in that property. The importance of scroll stopping images. What I love to do is I love to play with lighting, and I love to play with different angles, because we're in a scrolling world where every time you're on their phone, we're scrolling through, and what's going to capture our attention. So a lot of times people are using HDR photos that look very similar to real estate photos that you would see on the MLS. We as hosts get to experiment with different things, because we don't have those same rules in effect to try to make someone imagine themselves living there. Okay, we're not delivering a blank canvas. We're delivering a painting that now someone else gets to experience. And so what I do is I love to add a certain lighting to change the whole photo into a different color that really stops people from scrolling and want to see what's going on with this property. And to do that, you want to review local listing photos, identify the wants and don't wants. Okay. Airbnb in your property is very regional. So if you're in Santa Fe, or you're in Red River, or you're in Albuquerque, or you're in Los Lunas, people are looking in that area, and that is going to be who you're competing against. So you want to make sure that you're looking at what these other photos that are in the area or similar properties as yours, right? And how can you then make that scroll stopping image happen? If you are, for example, in an area where everybody has a pool. Arizona, Scottsdale is very popular, and every property has a pool out there. And so everybody's first photo is a pool. And so sometimes I recommend not having a pool as your first photo, because that's what everybody else is seeing when they're scrolling through. If you had a pool in Albuquerque or any part of New Mexico, I would suggest that would be your first photo, because it's not very common to see somebody have a backyard with a pool. So see what the local listings have and what their first photo is, and see if you can try to do something different. The wants and don't wants are super important to express that to your photographer. I don't want my property to look like this. I do want my property to look something more like this. Who is your ideal guest? Make sure that you have your ideal guest and that avatar out, either written on a piece of paper or in your head for that property. And you should have that from the beginning of designing your Airbnb in the first place, right? Who is your ideal guest, so that you can be your ideal host? If you like to communicate with those guests and how you communicate with them, how many people you want, demographics, you want to make sure you have that so that you're attracting the right people and you're pairing the right guests with the right property. You don't want to try to attract a business traveler to your property if you have slow internet. You know, you don't want, if you don't have designated workspaces, you don't want that business traveler. And if you do want that business traveler, you want to showcase that you have fast internet. You want to showcase that you have your designated workspaces for them. This is also a picture from the duplex in Albuquerque. This is a lounge area on an upstairs floor. And, you know, my goal is to get people to want to take photos of my properties. So this is a very photogenic area for people to imagine themselves in there to take those photos and post on Instagram, because I and everybody else in the marketing industry have figured out that if you can make a area for people to take photos, they will, and now you have free advertising. And that's also how we like to buy things, is how can I imagine myself being there and taking that photo and capturing that memory and that experience. The 4 essential types of Airbnb photos. Everybody on this webinar and anybody that's part of the New Mexico Short-Term Rental Association is going to be receiving this 6-page checklist. I know it seems a little excessive, but this 6-page checklist will help you not miss any shots that you're in need for your short-term rental. This is going to be a great document to help with getting you and your photographer on the same page. And the 4 essential types of Airbnb photos are going to be the layout and design photos. To me, those are going to be very similar, similar to your real estate photos. Those are going to be photos that really just show the lay of the land of the property and give the overall view of how things are designed and where everything's at. And then we're going to have our functional and factual photos. These are forgotten a lot of times. This is that same property in Grand Junction from the living room area. And this has a full queen, a real queen pull-out couch, sofa bed that I always, anytime I have extra sleeping arrangements, I like to showcase those off, right? Because then people don't have a question. They don't go, well, it says that you have 4 beds, but there's only 3 bedrooms. Where's the 4th bed at? Even though it's in the listing, we want to make sure that we're showing it. If it's not in a photo, it doesn't exist. Remember that. So in this photo, it's not the prettiest because you have a bed inside of the front room, but it's a functional photo, okay? And it's a factual photo. I like to make the beds and show that off. The third essential photo type that you're going to need for your Airbnb is going to be the vibe and experience photo. Those are going to be the fun ones. That's when you get to play with the lighting, and that's where you get to really showcase like your best amenity. I love to do twilight shots when I'm showing off a hot tub or showing off a backyard experience. I think it does great to really give that vibe of what I want my guests to experience. And so this is on my property in Grand Junction, Colorado. I always try to make sure that the mixture of lighting and that twilight and also using HDR photos, which I'll go in later on what those are, really express and give a feeling, evoke a feeling into that future guest. Detail and accent shots. Again, this is that same backyard in Grand Junction. We're close to the wineries. And so I want to make sure that I showcase that I have a wine bar and that the experience of being able to have that wine in that after you go to the vineyard and coming back and enjoying that glass with the rest of your guests, I think is super, super important. So this detail shot will also capture other things that you can see in the background, like the grill and other seating arrangements. Don't be afraid to make sure you ask that photographer for those detailed shots of whatever amenity it is. Why do I need a shot list? You need a shot list because anything that's important, you want to make sure you plan for. And your shoot day is one of the most important days, more important than the design of your property. Because without that shot list, you're going to miss those shots and have to have that photographer come back around. And that one shot that you missed that had an amenity or something in there you might have missed that booking because the guest that was looking at your property didn't see what they were looking for in those shots. So we want to make sure that we have a checklist. And that's why I'm providing that 6-page checklist for you guys in here. And in that checklist, brings to the next slide of why so many variations. When you get this checklist, you're going to say, Vince, why do I need to have so many different variations of the same shot of the same room? Is it really necessary? And I'm going to tell you it is necessary, because you don't know what that room looks like through that lens without taking that actual shot. So we want to take those shots and figure out which one's the best one. And right here, again, this is the living area of the Grand Junction property. And you can see that these two photos are shot from the same angle and the same edit. The only difference is the lighting, with the blinds open and the overhead lights off, and then the blinds shut with the overhead lights on. And you can see that it's going to evoke two different emotions, right? And you also don't know what that window or outside area is going to look like when you layer those photos to create that HDR photo without actually doing it. So I know it's more work for the photographer, and it's more work for you to make sure that you go and shut the blinds or open the blinds and turn off these different lights for all these different variations of the same room. But there's no rhyme or reason or right way. Sometimes I feel like some rooms of my properties look better with the blinds shut and the overhead lights on, and other times I want that natural light to come in. Sometimes you're shooting on a cloudy day. Sometimes it's going to be a different seasonality that you don't want to express in that photo. So having multiple photos is super important in the same room to see which one's the best one, the best fit for your guests. Showcasing room size and layouts and the flow. Like I said, having photos at different angles of the room is going to seem repetitive, but it's also going to show things in the room that you don't think are important, such as a workspace or the door to the bathroom, to see if that is a master bedroom or not. Capturing the appliances and cleaning supplies is essential. So in this photo right now, it's a property, a kitchen that's located inside of one of my Arvada properties that's located in the Denver metro area. And there are so many better photos of my kitchen in this one. But what I'm doing is, in this photo, is I'm not showing off the kitchen. I'm trying to show that I have a washer and dryer. But I also don't want to just have a boring photo of a washer and dryer. So how can you capture other elements of your property without making it boring? You know, fitting the most amount of information in a photo is going to be a lot more entertaining to that guest when they're going to that photo gallery, especially on larger properties. Set the mood with lighting and props. Don't be afraid to play with lighting, okay? We want to set the vibe, and that lighting is going to shine through, and that vibe is going to shine through in your photos. When I design my properties, I'm always looking to figure out how I can make them different than the next one, and lighting is my favorite tool to use for that. And I really wish more people would try to play with that lighting and to create that experience. And props, you know, if you have a pool table, utilize it as a pool table. If you have, wine glasses, utilize those wine glasses. If you have a great kitchen to really show off and have a chef there, show off all those utensils that you have in there. Don't be afraid to use those props. In that checklist, it's going to also have a checklist of props. There's plenty of things I've done in the past. When I'm looking for business travelers, I'm always making sure that the coffee station is really set up. A cool trick of mine I like to use is cold water inside of a coffee cup, and you get the whipped cream, the aerosol one, and you put a nice little design on there, throw some cinnamon sprinkles on there, and people and open up a laptop and stage that workspace is going to be a night and day for somebody who actually is looking for a workspace that's a business traveler or can work from home. They're going to be way more attracted to that than just an open desk with a chair. Again, this is an example of how lighting will change the whole space and make you more money. Right here, again, I have two photos of the same exact property, same exact room inside of my Arvada property out here in Denver. And as you can see, the only difference between these photos is a neon sign. And it really gives a different vibe. It's going to attract a different guest on each one. And so, you know, I play with all different types of lighting, from lamps neon signs, overhead lighting, and making sure that they're all going to be going off my property in a different light. What does bad lighting say about you and your property? What it says is you don't care. And if you don't care about your lighting, it's going to translate into the hospitality, even if that's not true. So that's why pictures are so important. This is a property of mine in Cherry Creek, located out here in Denver. And it's in a building, and I don't have a lot of control of some of the lighting. This lighting back here, you can see under the desk, is about a greenish color, and that light bulb I cannot find to replace. And so in this photo, I wanted to see what it looked like. It's terrible lighting, and it doesn't showcase the property. It doesn't make the photo feel balanced, okay? So we want to make sure that if we have bad lighting that we can't control, how can we bring in lighting to have control of that space? Creating Instagrammable photos, super important in this day and age of how people are showing off their lives on the internet, and people want to see an experience, and they want to capture that experience. So right here, this is, to the average eye, just an open space at my duplex in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That doesn't really show anything. There's no furniture in this picture or anything. It's showing a balcony and a neon sign that has some angel wings on it. And all I'm trying to do is get people to imagine themselves in front of that neon sign, asking their friend to take a photo of them, and then being able to share that experience on their Instagram or whatever social media platform there is that they're using. So how can we create Instagrammable moments and Instagrammable photos inside of your Airbnb? And if you create those areas, we have to show them off in the photos. Close-up and unique features. This is the Grand Junction property. It's located by not only the vineyards, but lots of biking trails. So I host a lot of mountain bikers that come in with their mountain bikes, and I have a station over here where not only they can store their mountain bikes, they're not always located on their truck or on their bike racks, but they can store them in the garage here, and they also have a dedicated workspace to work on them. So they can change their flat tires, change their chains, or whatever they need to do. And we want to make sure that we're having those detailed shots so people know what they're looking at. And those wide view shots, you can't see the details of there's the bike rack with the bike station for mountain bikes here. So we want to make sure we have those detailed shots as well. Sponsor and branding. I had a property in downtown Denver that was a whiskey unit. I drink whiskey. I enjoy whiskey. It's my favorite spirit. And so I wanted to go really themed. On my first themed unit, I did this whiskey unit. And what I did was I wanted a whiskey barrel inside of my property. And I didn't realize how much an empty whiskey barrel was. I thought that maybe a whiskey barrel was similar to like any other empty item that they didn't need anymore, that'd be really cheap, or that I could just get it for free. When I found out how much an empty whiskey bottle is and how they can reuse it, and that some wineries will buy old whiskey bottles and store their wine in it, and how important they were and how expensive they were, I decided that was not going to be a good fit for me, but I really wanted one. I wanted an authentic one. So I worked with a whiskey company called the Art of the Spirits, where I was able to do a sponsorship where they gave me the whiskey barrel for free, and I was able to advertise that their distillery did tours, and also they had food there as well. So I worked with several different distilleries throughout, since 2017 for this whiskey unit to showcase that. And if you have a sponsor or any type of branding shot that you want to make sure you incorporate that well. Your photographer doesn't know what's important in the units. You need to make sure you express to them, hey, I have a sponsorship on this unit. This is the company that sponsored it, and this is who I'm working with in partnership, and I really want to showcase off their brand and what they have to offer to the city. So if they don't know that, they're not gonna be creative to get those shots. This is a very overlooked photo that most people don't think about. You can tell your guests how close you are to different locations and event centers and restaurants and hiking trails and all these great things that your property has to offer by location, location, location. But as I said, if it's not in a photo, it doesn't exist. So how do you translate things that we're used to communicating through the written language and being able to showcase that, so people can see it. And so my property being located in downtown Denver, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show how close I was to everything when it came from the event centers like the Pepsi Center and Coors Field and Elitch's and all these other great places I was walking distance to. How can I showcase that? I did write that in the description, but I need to be able to showcase that as well. So I had somebody on Fiverr take all the things that I wanted to showcase for my property. I had a list of it. I already put it in my listing description as it is. So I was able to copy and paste that over to somebody on Fiverr and say, hey, can you make me a map for this? And this is what they came up with. So this is what I started using in all my listings. When I have a listing that's really location is one of their forefronts of what makes it special. Neighborhood and walkability for guest amenities. I have properties that are located inside of apartment complexes. I have properties that are located in the middle of nowhere, homes, duplexes, a little bit of everything. And so, there's certain things that you want to make sure that are in the area or some sort of amenity that you want to showcase. For example, I have a property in Cherry Creek that's part of an apartment complex, and we have a pool. So I want to make sure I'm showing off that we have the pool. It is a shared area, and I make sure that's known in the description, but we want to make sure we show that off. I had a property in Park Hill, which is a neighborhood in Denver, Colorado, and it was pretty small. It didn't have a backyard, and I was hosting families, but it did have a park that was a block away. So this over here is a picture of the park, and I would put in there, 1 block away. I want to make sure people know when they're looking at the photos that there's not a lot of room for families to play. I didn't have a game room and stuff like that. I had board games and that was about it. But how do you showcase those things? And don't be afraid to put them in your photo gallery, Your walk score. Not many people know this, but every property has a walk score. You can go to Google and you can type in walk score and you're able to enter in your address for your property and it will spit out a walk score for you. And if it's a good walk score, I would take a photo, a screenshot of that and make sure you have that in your photo gallery. This is a deodorizer that I use, an O2 deodorizer in my properties. This is going to be able to get out any smoking smell, any type of pet smell, any must. If you have foreign, I've hosted on a lot of different platforms besides Airbnb. I would get a lot of foreign guests that would come through from Asia and India. And a lot of times they're using really strong spices in that rice cooker and stuff like that. And we want to make sure that we have a blank slate for the next guest. And we only have a 5-hour turn. So these O2 deodorizers really show to a guest that's looking to book that, hey, I'm not going to have any smells or anything that's going to ruin my experience from the last guest going to carry over into my booking. Also, this is a great spot to put what kind of cleaning supplies you use. Out here in Denver, Colorado, where I live, we have there are properties in Boulder, which is very, very health conscious neighborhood. And so a lot of those properties will show that they have very natural cleaning supplies. And they'll put a photo of that up here. So you're going to be able to, there's a lot of guests that travel and they don't want their kids to be, licking or, touching things that may be harmful for them. And so they're really looking for that. And when you have to show that picture of that all natural cleaning chemical, that can also attract the type of guest that you're looking for. Guest reviews. Yes, they can go look at your reviews, but as I said, your photo gallery is the first thing they look through, and sometimes the last thing they look through before they book. Floor plans and seasonal images. With the my property in Albuquerque, my biggest property in Albuquerque, that's a duplex. It's huge. Each side is over 1,000 square feet, 1,800 square feet, or actually over 2,000 square feet because I have the garage space and the livable with the game rooms. And so I have the floor plans on there so that people can get a good feel of where they're sleeping at, right? Do you want to put all the kids on one side of the duplex? Where are the bedrooms at? Maybe you don't want to be sleeping right next to somebody else, you know, against the kids because they're loud and they stay up late. Whatever that scenario is, when you have on big properties, a lot of times you have multi-generation families from grandparents to grandchildren. And so showing this floor plan is going to help people really understand the layout and what their sleeping arrangements may want to be when they're planning. Seasonal images are important if you have a seasonal property. If you have a ski and ski out property in the mountains, you want to be able to showcase that property for summertime and for the winter. Because I'm not enticed to book your property to go snowboarding if none of your photos have snow in them, right? We want to see if you have a hot tub in the backyard, I want to see snow. I want to see the hot tub. I want to feel that experience. I want to know that's what I'm getting. Even though I know it's going to be snow there, I don't want to see a summertime photo. So having seasonal images is essential when you have a seasonal property. So now you feel like you have really understood why it's so important to have, you know, these this checklist and really pay attention to that D-Day, that photo shoot. How do you vet and hire the right photographer? Well, there's a few different things. We want to make sure that we're interviewing this photographer. And in this interview process, I have a list of a few different things that you guys can ask the photographer to make sure you're partnering with the right one. You know, even though you're only using this photographer for one day, you want to make sure that you're partnering with a photographer that really sees your vision and understands and has a little bit of patience. And in that interview process, you want to make sure you guys work well together. You want to make sure you're very clear on what you want. You can't, these photographers are not mind readers. They don't know. They are versed in capturing photos for different clients for different reasons. And you want to be very clear on who you're trying to attract and what you want those photos to look like. Make sure they're capable and willing. You know, we're going to talk about HDR photos. That's going to be when you're getting the max exposure of a photo by taking multiple photos in different exposure lengths and layer them on top of each other. That's how you're able to capture the inside of a living room as well as the backyard through that window. And so you don't have that glare or that focus issue. It's also going to be able to make your colors really bright and make scroll stopping images. So you want to make sure they're capable of doing HDR photos. If they're not the right photographer for you. And make sure that they're willing to be patient with you and that they're not just going to come in and shoot from a couple different corners of a room and call it a day and leave as if it was an MLS listing for a real estate agent. You want to give them the right tools. And one of the right tools is giving them this checklist. Okay, this checklist is really going to set the tone for what kind of client you're going to be and what your expectation is. There's a feedback loop. A lot of times you're going to work with the same photographer over and over, especially when you're in one city or one region and you would like to build that relationship. You want to get that feedback loop. You want to say, you want to look at the photos and say, hey, I wish we would have done this. You know, in this checklist, I make sure that the TVs are on. Or if the TVs aren't on, we're going to put a picture over the TVs. I hate blank TVs in listings because it's a waste of space. I want to showcase that is a smart TV. Even though 90% of TVs are smart, we want to make sure we're showcasing that so we don't get those questions. And you can also use that TV as a place for advertisement for your management company or for your Airbnb logo, whatever you would like to do on there, but don't waste it. Use that feedback loop with your photographer to make sure that at some point in time you don't have to show up to the photo shoots because they already know what your expectation is. Pro tips for photographers. You want to make sure that they're using the HDR when possible. There are some cases where you wouldn't use it, but for the most part, HDR are going to give you the best quality photos for what we're looking for in the industry. And you want to shoot from you want to make sure your photographer shoots from every corner of the room. A lot of times we walk in and we go, well, wherever we walk in the door at, that's where the best photo is going to be at. But you never know until you shoot from every corner. And so you want to make sure that you have those photos because sometimes you also want to see, like I said, the doorways of the bathrooms. You want to see what's on the other side of that room. Maybe it's a desk that you don't think is very important, or the ironing board, right? We want to make sure we have every corner, because we don't have to use every photo, but we want to make sure we have our options. You want to vary the shot height and spaces for effects. You know, a lot of times photographers will come in and they'll shoot everything from the same tripod height, and that looks very, very boring when we're going through that photo gallery. So we want to make sure that we're able to play with different variations of that, and be creative and try new ideas. You know, don't turn your photographer into a robot. Let them use their creative juices to bring new ideas to your photo gallery. This is an example of the HDR photo. This is so that you can see the beautiful view of one of my downtown properties, downtown Denver, and you want to be able to capture the view as well as inside the unit. This is a perfect example of being able to shoot from all four corners of a bedroom. Even though the bottom left photo is like the best picture, it's kind of cut out right now to try to get all the images onto the PowerPoint. But when you walk into that room, that's going to be the best shot that you can get. But I also show photos from the other side, even though you can see the same bed, you can see the same dresser. But what it does is it shows that that room is a master. You can see the bathroom, okay? And on the other photo to the right of that, you can't see it, but the bedroom door is open, and on the other one, the bedroom door is shut. You just never know where the focal point is. When you have open doors, a lot of times it leads the eye astray from the focal point, which is the bedroom, okay? So shutting doors, opening doors, and seeing what that looks like, depending on what's on the other side of that door, is important. This is one of my penthouses in downtown Denver. I was having fun with this photo shoot because I couldn't really show how big the property was by having the same height all the way through. Excuse me. And so we would shoot from different heights. And what that would do too is everybody had the same height photos was in the area. And so I wanted to play around with how do I get someone to stop on mine and really look, what is that? It looks weird, because we get blinded to seeing the same visual, and we'll just keep clicking through or keep scrolling through. So this is from the kitchen. It's shot from like a 6-foot height. You can see that's the fridge to the bottom left. It's shot really, really high. It's not an HDR photo. This is a penthouse that I opened up in 2017. So I've been playing with the photography in my Airbnb since the beginning. And as my business has grown and the more experience I've added more things in there. I definitely would have done an HDR shot on this property if I knew about what those were. This is oh, we have a question. Yeah, Lisa?
Oh, I'm sorry, Vince. I have a hard stop at 6, but
no worries.
I'm just wondering. I can wait. Are you almost done, or?
Yeah, we're almost done.
Okay.
No problem.
Go ahead. No worries.
Be creative. Try new ideas. I let my photographer do what they wanted on this Grand Junction property, and they decided to turn the water on the faucet, and I thought it was so cool. So anytime you get motion inside that photo, it will look really cool. So this is a close-up of just the faucet, and behind it, what I'm showcasing is a picture perfect wall that says "Welcome to Grand Junction, Colorado," and it has one of the Grand Junction monuments in the background that's very located close to the property. Post-production and formatting. Make sure you're being very clear with these photographers on what the minimum photo count you're looking for is. You know, on small casitas, you have to get really creative, because you want to have at least 9 photos, or Airbnb is not really going to take you serious. You want to make sure you have the right size and format. If you're using a PMS system like Guesty or Logify, or what platform you're putting these photos on. Any visible cords, ask your photographer to take them out. If you have cords from the TV or lamp cords, try to get those out of there. They're just not important, and they're going to pull away from the eye. Create images, create image and collages for special areas. A lot of times, if I have a really big backyard that has a bunch of games, I'll collage those photos into one photo, so that they can get 4 photos in one when they're scrolling through Airbnb. choosing that moneymaker. You want to make sure that your hero photo, that cover photo, is the best photo, but also different than the rest of the photos from the listings in your area. This is the penthouse again, a detailed shot with the wine glasses, but also showcasing, the how much light gets into that room. So trying to kill two birds with one stone in this photo. And I hope that today that everybody I really pounded in how important photos are for your listing and how important it is to take that photo shoot day important and being prepared for that day. Q&A, guys. I know, Lisa, do you have any questions before you have to leave? I know you have a hard stop at 6.
Yeah. I just, first I want to comment and thank you, Vince. I met you in Santa Fe, and I think you're just brilliant with this presentation, just earning my respect 100%. I see how you are focusing around human-centered design, which is amazing with the experiences. And it just opened my mind to an idea, because I have one room that's all Frida Kahlo stuff, and I've traveled to Mexico and I like her. And so someone just recent guest said, she said, hey, you don't have any pictures that you really have a Frida Kahlo room. And I said, oh, I call that the Frida room, but I've never marketed it. You know what I mean? And so are there any like copyrights? I mean, if I just took a picture of it and all my Frida gears in there, am I okay to display that?
Yeah. So if it's your photo, it's fine.
Okay.
And so one of the things is I would always have my photographers go take photos of the amenity, the location, like the event centers around, because I didn't want to steal a photo off Google and then, that photographer come after me and be upset about it. But yeah, so also another idea that comes to me, Lisa, that I've worked with in the past is I've worked with artists to showcase their art. So if you find, some Frida art from an artist, hey, how can we display that in my property and maybe put it on a consignment? Sometimes you go into coffee shops and different restaurants and they do that with local artists. But yeah, I would definitely really don't be scared to go themed. People are really scared to go themed. This is the world where you have to go themed to stand out from the other bookings.
Yeah, absolutely. And last year Airbnb sent a professional photographer over, and he actually did a good job, because I just had photos with my cell phone. So he took photos, but I never thought to ask him to do themed stuff, so I just so appreciate the session so much. And then on a totally different subject, and maybe we could, discuss offline, I have a question about gross receipts tax. I don't know how to get a hold of you or other people to network, through the short-term rental, but I would like to maybe have your contact information when you have time, just have a few minutes of your time on that.
Definitely. Chris will definitely be able to help you with that.
Yeah.
President of the New Mexico Short-Term Rental Association. And we have your email address.
Yes.
Because you are a member, I believe, right, Lisa?
Yes, I joined that night. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. Lisa, can I just give you my phone number? Anyone on here, it's fine. My phone number.
Sure.
Yeah, it's 505 263 7006. And I'd be happy to speak with you anytime. Just give me a jingle, and I can talk to you about the gross receipts stuff. It gets confusing.
Okay, great. 505-263-7006. Okay.
Yes, and we're going to edit our website to make sure that there's some contact numbers on there of board members. So thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, guys. I'm taking my 84-year-old mom out, so I have to go. But thank you 1,000,000%, Vince, and thank you all.
No worries, Lisa. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions?
Vince, this was incredible. So much information, so helpful. I have so much work to do. I am so behind the times. I think I just get so busy running my business. The intentionality of using photographs is just, I think I've just learned so much. So I thank you so much for sharing this with us.
No worries. Krista?
Well, thank you. I think it's amazing that you're providing these webinars, Vince. As always, you're extremely knowledgeable and always so impressed with your expertise and your knowledge on these things. I may have missed, I was dropping someone off for football practice, but I may have missed, how long typically are you taking to set up those shots prior to the photographer getting there? And are you putting together like storyboard types of things like you would for a video shoot beforehand? And I apologize if I missed you discussing that.
No, you're fine. I didn't discuss it. Everything's going to be in the checklist. The checklist
Okay.
is like my Bible for photo shoots. So, before the photo shoot, when the cleaners come in, as I'm setting up a property, I have, you want to start with the end in mind. And so, before you start designing the property, you want to go through the photo checklist and then start designing and figuring out where those places are. Where would make a good photo? That sign on this right here, the be a badass with a good ass, that is a very intentional design. That is a great place to take photos. There's plenty of space for 3 people to stand there and a photographer to sit by the sink with their iPhone and take a photo. So I'm looking for those areas to create this shot, right? So then what I do is then I go back and go, okay, how do I create that shot and display it? And so the checklist will go through. That's why it's 6 pages. It really will go through on not forgetting anything. So I think that by the time I'm calling the photographer to come in, the property gets cleaned, and then I probably spend about an hour staging it and making sure that the rice cooker is out and the air fryer is out and stuff like that. And the photo shoot for like a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom home with a backyard usually takes about 2 hours. And so
Okay.
I like to really express that to my photographer like this. You're not going to come in here and just bang this thing out in 35 minutes like you would a regular listing. If I was selling the property, it is going to take a little bit longer because they're gonna take the shot, and then I have to go hold on real quick, close the blinds, change the lighting, maybe undisplay things. Right? If you sometimes on a kitchen you want to have a shot where you display everything. But maybe you have really small countertops. So then you want to take a shot where you're not displaying everything, and just see which one flows and works better.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions?
I have one more about what is a reasonable price. What's for a photographer for, let's just say, a 1,500 to 2,000 square foot property?
I a lot of times I would be willing to pay on the high end if I've worked with that photographer before, and I know that they're on the same page as me. The less I have to coach and be there, the more I'm willing to pay. But on average, between $200 to $600 is usually what I find out, depending on the market. Of course, like I have photographers in Denver, I have photographers in Grand Junction and Albuquerque. But between that $200 and $600 range, and if you have somebody who's willing to work with you and understands the vision and has those patience, I will pay more because I am picky about things, and the photos are so important. So it's funny because if I actually had the photos first, or if I got to decide the price after I saw the photos, I would pay way more. Because I'd be like, gosh, this is such an amazing photo. It's going to get me so many bookings. And I'd pay $500 for one photo. If you know how important the photos are, you would. But the thing is that you don't have the photos to offer the fact, So between that $200 and $600 range is where I'm usually at.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I want everyone to know on this webinar that everybody's going to be getting the Stay Invincible photo checklist. That will be coming through in the email that you provided for this webinar tonight or tomorrow. And also, if you are not a New Mexico Short-Term Rental Association member, please do. I'm going to be hosting events like this every other month, and we might have somebody else teaching a webinar the months that I'm not. And if you guys know anybody in the space, definitely let them know. and get signed up. You can do that through the website. You could reach out to me, and I can send you that link and get you guys registered. And anybody who's registered will also get the playback as well. So please make sure you register so I can get these checklists out to you guys as members. And the webinars are, free. They're going to stay free, and that's the plan. And if you're not a member, you're welcome to show up. But if you want the documents and the playbacks and stuff like that, please sign up to become a member. And if you guys do come across any questions in the future, please just write them down, shoot me an email, or send me a text. You can reach me at 303-525-9620. Shoot me a text if you have any other questions about how to become a member and the next webinar. I'm going to try to start keeping them consistent with not just every other month, but the same day. I just haven't figured out the best day for that since our first one. So if you guys have any recommendations on like time, if this was too early or too late in the evening, just let me know. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback.
Thank you so much, Vince. I really am so grateful for your time and your professional guidance. So on behalf of the NMSTRA, I just want to thank you for being on our board and this incredible work that you're doing. And for anybody else, the website is nmstra.org for membership. And we are growing. We've got a lot going on. So we really invite your participation. I just wanted to say that. So thanks so much, Vince.
I appreciate you, Chris.
All right.
You guys enjoy your evening.